start coding in any language, most people start off with the language that they learn in Call 100, but it is preferable to transition to C++, especially before your interviews, because there are some questions in interviews or online assessments that are specific to concepts in C++. Ensure that whatever language you're coding in, you're comfortable with the common libraries and you know the syntaxes of codes that are often used
So far as you have written ML projects in your CV, I think interviewers are largely going to question you about how you have done that project and some ML concepts related to that particular project. As far as quant developer interviews are concerned, I think ML is a really important part. So I would suggest that you do go ahead and at least learn basic ML related stuff like linear regressions or supervised unsupervised learning, different ML models in terms of XGBoost, etc., etc. I think that is something that is important if you're going for quant developer roles, but if you're going for general software roles like in Dish or Microsoft Research, etc., ML will only be asked if you have written about any ML projects in your CV, and if you have done that, then do ensure that you know everything about those particular ML concepts that you have utilized in those particular projects. I think a good place to start CP is as early as possible, right? So a lot of people do start CP when they are in their first year, right? If you were not able to do that, then you can start CP in the second year, in the winter of the second year, or in the starting part of second year, right? With CP, it's mostly about as much as you can do that is better, right? So if you're starting late, then try and give more time to CP on a regular basis, right? Try and solve as many problems and cover as many problems as you can, give as many contests as you can. Lastly and most importantly, when it comes to CP, it's not about the rating that you're able to attain, but it's more about the diversity of problems that you're able to solve, because at the end, I think your performance on the software tests is much more important than your rating on code forces, right? And therefore, it is very important to solve all kinds of problems, and and therefore giving time contest is not like the most important thing, but you can also give virtual contests, etc., as long as you're able to practice for the software.
This is something that differs from person to person, depending on, first of all, when you've started with CP, and also on whether you've done a data structures course. So if you've done a data structures course, that gives you like an elementary grasp of basic algorithms and data structures that you generally use in LeetCode problems. So you can go ahead and do LeetCode problems, maybe sets like the top 150 set, and then try to delve into specific topics if you feel like you're not very strong in that particular topic. Say you may want to get more practice with problems on dynamic programming, so you could go ahead and delve into specific sets for those as well. On the other hand, in terms of competitive programming, the more you do, it is generally better. So start off as soon as possible and go ahead and practice as many problems as possible. For timed practice, go ahead and give all the contests that take place, especially in the 2 months that are there before the internship tests begin. So go ahead and do those, and then try to solve virtual contests for the contests that have taken place in the past, and ensure that you go over editorials for problems that you were not able to solve during the contest, or dedicate time to explicitly go ahead and solve those problems later on. Do not simply just go ahead and leave those problems or give up on them. So it is largely dependent on your need, but yeah, this is what generally people should do. In general, you can go ahead and add any course related projects that you've done that involve any sort of programming, especially for your SG roles. So for people who've done Call 106, you can go ahead and add your assignments that you've done in that course, and you can go ahead and review the codes for those assignments before you go for your interviews. So essentially know about the time complexity of your code, the data structures that you've used, any particular libraries that you might have used in that code, and ensure that you're quite confident about these ideas when you're going for your interviews. Other than that, there are always self projects that you can take up. ML is a very popular field in which a lot of people do self projects. So you can go ahead and do those projects in the winter break when you're free, or you can also take up projects under professors, or take up maybe winter internships that involve some form of coding, which you can also
Firstly, talking about how to, go ahead and present your code during an interview, the most important thing is there should not be elongated silence during an interview, right? So even if you're maybe going ahead and getting at a solution, so it is always a good thing if you go ahead and share your thought process and step-by-step thought process with the interviewer, right? That is something that is expected. Secondly, and most importantly, do not always go ahead and try to think of the most efficient code possible, right? You can build to the most efficient code, but firstly go ahead and talk to the interviewer about what's the most obvious code that you have already thought of, the most obvious algorithm that you have already thought of, and then you can go ahead and build further, right? You and the interviewer are together going ahead and solving that problem. That is something that is very, very important for you to keep in mind, right? Secondly, try and write your code. So either they'll tell you to write that code on an IDE, or they'll tell you to write that code on a piece of paper, right? It is very, very important for you to go ahead and write that code neatly, and most importantly to go ahead and use variable names, etc., really carefully, right? So some things that you do not take a lot of care of when you're doing CP and all, right? So it's very important for you to write a very, very composed and clean code, right? So that is important. Secondly, on the idea of system designs, then on the idea of system design, I think there are three major parts, right? Firstly, computer networks related information. Secondly, operating systems related information. Thirdly, programming language related information. For programming language related information, I think mostly there are questions related to CPP that are asked, like how are vectors maintained inside memory, etc., right? For all of these questions, I think there's a website called learncpp.com. I think that website is really, really good, and you can actually go ahead and completely read out whatever that website has to say, and I think that has helped me a lot to go ahead and answer all the questions related to C++ and underlying programming languages and stuff like that, right? Secondly, I think for operating systems and computer networks, there is a system design playlist by Gaurav Sen that just touches these topics, and I think that is more than enough when it comes to internship level information, right? And that is something that you can go with. In case you have a lot of time and you really want to learn more about systems, etc., you can go ahead and delve into the operating systems course of the computer science department. There are videos online on YouTube. I think those videos cover operating systems and some pertinent parts of computer networks in those particular videos, and that is something that you can go with, right? So I think this is more than enough when it comes to system design related stuff. So the most important thing here is that only do the systems related stuff if you're more than confident about your data structures knowledge, and you're more than confident about algorithms and stuff, right? After you have practiced that enough, only then you should go ahead and do the